Hey everyone, I am live on Facebook with Lil Sebastian. We're going down a new route today, so it'll be slightly different simply because in where I am we've had a lot of rain and a lot of places are flooded, and when I took Sebastian there last time we got completely muddy. So today I've got a couple of things I want to talk to you about when it comes to, if I remember exactly what I just wrote, what was the first one? So we've got asking the right questions and getting new perspectives for getting new solutions. So if you are ready, go ahead and say yes, you are ready, and I will get right on to both of those subjects. I think it's really important to be able to get that bit of information. So if you're good for me to go ahead and start, let's go ahead and start. So if possible, go ahead and like the video so I know that you're watching and you're ready. I know we've got around 22 viewers. We're going to get up to hopefully around 200. Yesterday, actually, we got up to 360, and within like an hour and a half, it got up to 1,600 views, which is absolutely awesome. So thank you for checking in. So with that in mind, are you ready to learn how to ask the right questions to get more solutions, or to get better results, as well as getting new perspectives so you can actually get new solutions? So if you've got a problem, we'll be going there. Excellent. So people are starting to comment, so we'll go ahead and start now. So let's go straight to the first one, which is ultimately asking the right questions. Now, the way we're built, we tend to ask completely the wrong questions when we go into situations, and there's an absolute reason why we do it. So what is this type of thing that we actually ask ourselves? So we go ahead and do something and we ask ourselves, usually, why am I like I am? Or why does this always happen to me? So when we ask those kind of questions on the inside, let's just say you're going for a job interview, it didn't work, and you go to yourself, why did this happen? Why did I act that way? Why was I so stupid? And things like that. Then what happens is your brain is wired up to look for common examples to the type of questions that you're asking yourself. So once again, what does that mean? If you're asking the question, why am I like XYZ? Why am I so depressed? Why am I always fearful in this situation? Why am I fill in the blank? When you're asking the why, you're getting an answer from your unconscious mind saying, these are all the reasons as to why you are like this. So it'd be like, why do I always get anxiety? And your brain will be going, well, because all the times in the past, that anxiety has been there. So it's going to look for the answer that way. Now, that is the problem, because we're asking why, and then your unconscious mind will look for evidence to actually prove the answer to that question. So ultimately, when we're doing that, we're asking the wrong questions. And what we have to do, rather asking why are we like we are, or why does this always happen to me, or why am I depressed, or why am I phobic, what we have to do, is we have to ask the question, how can I be different? So if you're going into an interview and you're just about to go and you always go to yourself, why do I always get anxious when I go to an interview? We stop that right there and go, not that question. We're going to ask ourselves a brand new question today, and that is, how can I be happy? Or how can I be confident? How can I be relaxed? Because your unconscious mind is then going to look for that answer. So the why will give you reasons as to why you are like you are, or why that always happens in that situation. What we want to do is ask, how can I be different? Notice how that feels in your system when you think about that, the two different questions. They both provide completely different answers. The why looks for past experiences, past evidence as to why you are like you are. However, if we go, how can I be different? automatically your brain looks for opportunities. It might not get the complete solution there and then, but it's a tip that if we do that, we're asking the right questions to get a new how. How can we be different? How can I be calm and relaxed in this situation? How can I be more confident? How can I be more relaxed? How can I do X, Y, Z? How can I make more money? Rather, why am I in debt? So it sounds ridiculously simple, but ultimately that is how the mind works. So we've got to ask the right questions to get the right answers. If we're asking, why are we like we are, or why does this always happen, your brain will scan every past event as to why you are like that, and it'll convince you that's what happens. So, for example, if you said, why am I always so stupid? Why does I always fail in that? It'll go, oh, wow, Joe, you went through this event last week, and remember that time 6 years ago when you absolutely looked stupid? It will find the evidence to back up that question. But as soon as you switch the why to a how, you're going to get your brain to look for an opportunity or a new strategy that gives you a better way of being how you want to be. So that is the first thing I'd like to talk about. Just a very quick, simple tip which will allow you to ask the right questions. And it almost takes me to the second part, which was getting new perspectives on things. Getting a new perspective to get a different insight. So whenever I'm in a situation and if I'm under stress or something's not happening or I don't know the answer, I will rather get locked. What usually happens to us is we get locked down into a certain way of thinking. So, for example, sorry, I'm just navigating my way through the woods now. So, going back to what I was saying, if you get locked down into the same thinking, when you've got a problem in your life, you will get the same answers. Okay, so if you're thinking from the same mindset, or you're thinking from the same perspective, you will get the same answers that you've always got. So what we have to do is change our mindset. So what do? We go ahead and imagine, sounds very strange by the way, but we go ahead and imagine and we look through the eyes of someone who's maybe achieved that solution. So you look through their eyes and you think about, how would this person do that? So asking the right question again, right? The how question. So as you look through that person's eyes who's got your solution, you will start to change your thinking, your mindset into their personality or into their mindset, and it will cause you to think outside the box. Now, some really cool things you can do with this. I mean, I've actually got a podcast on this, and I'll post it in the links when I get back, but ultimately I will guide you through 10 or so different types of thinking. Okay, so one would be, for example, something silly and extremely, so if you're going through stress and then I ask you, imagine looking through your pet's eyes. What would your pet say to this problem and stress that you're going through? Or look through the eyes of someone who you absolutely adore and idolize. What would they do in that situation? How do they see things differently? You can literally look through anyone's eyes, and what we're doing here, I can't remember the technical term, but it's almost like personification, where we're just looking through their own eyes, and by doing so, you're getting your mind to look at different solutions. It's looking for different outcomes. Because as I said, we get locked down into the same way of thinking. So in order to break that, you can get a little bit silly, like look through, if you're under stress, you've got an issue with someone, or you're going through something, you just go, okay, I'm going to look through my pet's eyes. What would my pet say in this situation? Or I'm going to look through Joseph's eyes. What would he do in that situation? Or I'm going to look through Richard Branson's eyes. How would that change my mindset? So it sounds very strange, but it's a technique that allows you to just think in a different way. You're thinking outside the box. It can be a little bit hard at first because you're locked down into your thinking, But by doing so, you will start to open up your mind to new things. So the whole idea is to open up your mind into a new perspective. So you look through the eyes, or in your mind you can ask that person, or whatever it may be, their perspective, and your unconscious mind then has to think about that mindset and come up with a different set of answers that you presently got. So the two things I've been talking about today is asking the right question. So rather why, we ask how. And then the other one, to get a new perspective on problems or situations or getting solutions, is to look through the eyes of someone or something else. So I hope that has helped. So let me just go through some of these comments now. Okay. How does someone determine what they really want to do for their living so they're happy in their work life? So that's from Seamus. Okay, so there's what we do. We are driven by values. Okay, so whatever's important to you, your brain will look for or want that. So rather thinking of the work that you want to do, because that can be quite hard, we focus on the value behind it. So we ask ourselves, what's important to me about a career or a job or whatever it is, your own business? And it could be something like, well, I want flexibility, or I want to be outside, or I want to work in a team, or I want to work as an individual. I want to be able to travel the world. I want that freedom. And you literally list out all the things which are important to you when it comes to whatever goal that you have. So if it is about a career, what's important to me about a job? Well, it's about being flexible. It's about being creative. You write down all those things, and then, because you've tapped into your values, the thing which really makes you sing, the job or the lifestyle or the work thing that you want to do will become far clearer. Usually we do the absolute reverse. We're focusing on things that, specific job titles. But what we have to do is focus on the values, the things which motivate us most. When we do that, we will actually then begin to find the job which fits our criteria, rather than a job trying to make us fit into a certain job. So I hope that helps, Seamus. I hope that's kind of makes sense, really. We're just really tapping into the values. So let's see. Can you give me a tip on self-doubt? Is it something I allow even when I know that I need to do what I need to do and can do it? It stems from childhood, but I need to overcome it. Big day tomorrow would have wonderful self-belief, no doubts. Or wonderful to have self-belief and no doubts. Okay, so I've pretty much read that. So, letting go of self-doubt. Self-doubt is focusing on what you don't want or what you don't think you can do. So the whole idea is we've got to reflect on the contrary, which is reflecting on how you want to be. This goes right back to what I first said. Rather, why am I always doubting myself, or why am I having all these negative thoughts? We go, well, how do I want to be different? If you start to do that, you'll begin to hallucinate in your mind how you want to be, which will then pre-teach your mind your physiology, so you'll feel calmer and relaxed and more confident, and it will give you that more alignment as to how you want to be. The other thing is, when it comes to self-doubt, it's usually around limiting beliefs, so not feeling good enough or not feeling worthy, for example. Might not be true for you personally, but it's definitely a common one. We have to then work on that limiting belief. Now, I do have my self-worth and my good enough hypnosis track. However, a quick tip would be asking yourself, when you think about self-doubt, like all the symptoms of your self-doubt, you go, okay, what belief do I have about myself which makes this self-doubt true? When you come up with that belief, that'll be a lot easier to work with, and then we can, I can actually advise you what you can listen to when it comes to free stuff or very cheap stuff. So we ask ourselves, about all our symptoms, what belief do I have about myself which creates all these symptoms? So Jane says, have there been any side effects from doing self-hypnosis? The side effects for me are absolutely awesome. I get better, I think clearer, I feel more resolved. Obviously that's a funny answer from me. However, the key is, when it comes to self-hypnosis, it is all a learning state. We're getting into a learning state where we're tapping into our mind and body and getting back into rapport with ourselves. So the idea of self-hypnosis, or hypnosis in itself, is to reconnect with yourself. And to me, when you reconnect with yourself, you have a greater control. So to me, you get positive side effects. Okay, Caroline says, how to start getting control of your intrusive thoughts. I'd probably go back to the answer I gave just before, the one about side effects. That should really help. So, okay, so we've got one from Manny. What if feelings fog your thinking? Okay, what if feelings fog your feeling? That's completely true, because usually feelings will be overriding your thoughts. That's definitely true. Sometimes it's the other way around. So in that situation, I've got a great video on YouTube, and it's called Change Your State Instantly. Okay, it's either instantly or quickly, and that should really help get rid of the fog, or your feelings, which is fogging over your thinking. And Andrew Steiner, just after that, said, would it be the same as anchoring your thoughts to change the outcome, or at least improve it? Absolutely, Andrew. Great to have you on. That is pretty much what I just said as well. I know I'm reading your comment way later than you wrote it, but that video I just said, changing your state instantly, is an anchoring process. And if people don't know what that means, is we're getting the neurology to associate on your control. So as soon as you do something, as you'll see in the video, it will cause you to feel differently. So a lot of the stuff that I do is anchoring, because we're pre-teaching and teaching how we want our system to go. And after a while, it will actually become a new habit. So it becomes anchored into our system. Okay. Eyes here says, I like these live lectures. Me too, it's always fun. Okay, Charlene says, do you have a quick tip for panic attacks instead of turning to tablets? You're doing awesome. Thanks. Okay, awesome. So I really appreciate that feedback. So do you have a quick tip for panic attacks? Now, it can be quite hard to change our state, which is funny enough, these questions are going back to that video I just mentioned, change your state instantly. That will be a great one to start. But the key is, and it's really important, it's very hard to change your state when you're in that emotive state. But what we can do is start now by listening to that video and doing it quite a few times. As soon as you're in that situation, which usually gives you a panic attack, we fire off that anchor, and that will change your emotional state in that situation. So it's not about, say, for example, having one now and doing it, because you're in that emotional state. So whenever you're in a relaxed state, you then do the video, you learn that strategy, so whenever you get into that situation, you will automatically fire off a new set of reactions. Like your physiology absolutely changes. The other thing we can do with panic attacks, once again, it's pre-teaching, is rehearsing in your mind, and there's a critical point to this one, and that is, so I'm just readjusting my hand, and it kind of eggs your hand after while doing this. I'm not going to get a selfie stick though, I'm not going to go there. But when it comes to rehearsing, you imagine just before where you'd usually get panic attacks, okay? So when you're nice and calm and relaxed, and you imagine like a movie screen in your mind, and as you imagine that movie screen in your mind, you see yourself acting and reacting. So you're seeing yourself over there. What that creates is dissociation. Panic usually comes from associated. We're very associated to that fear and panic, or whatever it is, or blushing, it could be anything. So what we're doing here is we're seeing ourselves in the movie, and therefore, we're dissociated from ourselves. And that means we're not feeling those emotions. So we're seeing ourselves how we want to be in that movie. By rehearsing that in your mind, I mean, I've done this for myself up to like at least 100 times continuously, going through that movie exactly how I want to be, rewind it and play it again, rewind it and play it again. And what we're doing is we're dissolving that association in our system. When we do that while being how we want to be, like hallucinating how we want to be, we will once again pre-teach our unconscious mind, and then going back asking the right questions. How can I be calm in this situation? If you missed that part, check out the beginning of the video, because that's going to really help. Okay, hopefully that did help. So let's see, how do I get closure on a loved one's suicide 10 years on? First of all, I'm very sorry to hear that. One thing I do have on my app, which is for free, it is it can be used for guilt, but it's a grief process. And that's for free on my podcast. And I actually do have a hypnosis session for that as well. Okay, so let's scroll down. Thank you for the wonderful comments, by the way. Where is my accent from? I am actually from England, Cambridge. I had to think about that. From Cambridge, England, which is about an hour away from London. Okay, so at the moment, I think I've answered it. As I'm scrolling back. Let's see what else we got here. I think I've pretty much answered all the questions coming in. Okay, oh, thank you, Elizabeth. I'm pleased that helps. I'm sure it really will do. Obviously, things take time, but because when it comes to emotional stuff, we have warranted emotion and inappropriate emotion. Now, if time has passed and you feel to yourself, I actually want to resolve and let go of that emotion, it feels inappropriately having an effect on your system, then we're really ready to make a change. Sometimes it is important to go through a process of grief or whatever it is, but I think that will be the best way of doing things, going through the hypnosis tracks that I just mentioned. But when we're ready, our body will begin to release that. And we can always ask that wonderful question, what do I need to learn from this? A negative emotion that I'm experiencing with once learned will allow me to get the emotional freedom while still preserving all those wonderful things with that person. You're very welcome. Perfect. It may be a crazy question, but is it safe to do hypnosis? I'm afraid I won't come out of it. Okay, so it's not a crazy question. Here's the thing. There is a big stigma around hypnosis, of course. We see the stage stuff. Let me put that into an answer right now. So stage stuff is absolutely true, but you have to be willing to do that. You've got to volunteer for it, and half the time, probably say about 75% of the time, the stage hypnotist throws the person, not throws them back, but they send them back in the audience because they want the highly suggestible people who want to be up there. And as I said earlier, that you do have control. You do have control in hypnosis. All it is a learning state. It's like meditation. It's like anything. Of course, I always recommend, before doing anything, speak to your doctor about it, because they know what's going to be beneficial, and I know I've worked with many doctors and many dentists teaching them hypnosis. So it is a very safe practice, in my opinion, with the right person. It is important to find the right people, trained people, but I really believe that hypnosis, for me personally, and those who have gone through my work, my app, you read the reviews, you can really see how hypnosis is powerful. I'm not saying that's because of my stuff. I'm saying that the vehicle of hypnosis is very profound. Of course, as I said, it's always great, and I always recommend anyone who I work with to speak to their general practitioner, their doctor, and you'll be able to get the right answers from them. But you'll notice that hypnosis is really a learning state, and that's all. What was the name of your YouTube cast again? I believe the one I was talking about was Changing Your State Instantly. Okay, Changing Your State Instantly. So you should be able to find that at youtube.com/Joseph Clough Hypnosis. How do you get over anxiety of public speaking? I've got a great hypnosis one for that as well. But if you go back, if you missed it, rehearsing your mind, that dissociation. When we're public speaking, I know this because I hated public speaking. So much I didn't even want to publicly speak to my grandparents because I was so nervous all the time as a child. When I was around my friends, I had social anxiety in class. I hated it. But I speak in front of the biggest crowd I've spoken to is around 500 people, and I loved it. I had some small nerves because I wanted to perform, and nerves is okay, but I enjoyed the process. So go back, if you hadn't watched, if you just come onto this video, this live video, you go back to the part when I'm saying, see yourself in a movie screen. That lets go of negative emotion. Usually with public speaking, you're in like tunnel vision, and you feel all the attention and the energy on you, and you start to feel that. But when we dissociate and we step back and we look through the eyes, looking at ourselves in the movie, so that means we're not looking through our own eyes, you'll begin to really teach your unconscious mind to let go of those negative emotions. I think I've actually got a video on that as well somewhere. But thank you, Amy. That's very kind of you to say. Yeah, there is a free grief process on my app, so go ahead and check that out. Elizabeth says, I have found self-hypnosis wonderful. Me too, that's great. Let's see. Yes, and the grief one is actually on my YouTube channel as well, as Song quite rightly said. When you're reading or driving, we're under a type of hypnosis. To a very big extent, that is true. When we drive, we're not paying attention. We can get to one place and really wonder how we got there because our attention hasn't been there and your unconscious mind has been keeping you safe. And that's the key thing. Your system, your biological system, your unconscious mind is there to protect you. It heals you, it protects you, it runs habits and behaviors. So what we're doing as we go into hypnosis is to reconnect and get rapport and allow that safety to actually increase by letting go of the issue. Thank you, Charlene, that's very kind. How can I learn to say no without feeling guilty? That's a good one. Let me have a little think. I love these live Q&As. They're like kind of like quick fire. So how can I learn to say no without feeling guilty? To me, I'm trying to think of the appropriate answer, because if it is unwarranted guilt, so, I mean, it's always down to our kind of mindset and what we think is right. But all we have to do, another very small quick tip, and it's about changing personality types, because some people are of that nature. What I would do is you play a tape to yourself asking someone to do something, and you go no, or you repeat it in your mind, and you just congruently say no. No, that's not what I need, and so on. And explaining the reasons as to that. If you do that enough in your mind, so it sounds strange, we're just doing it in our mind, but you're getting that congruence in your system. Usually we want to say no, but our body feels that guilt. It feels that. But if we teach our mind to go no, you don't have to say it in person, like really negatively and angry, but when we have that affirmative no, as we just do that in our mind, and we go no, and do it out loud as well, you'll begin to fire off the right things in your brain, in your neurology, to actually follow up with that physically, and that will allow you to be a lot calmer. Andrew says, recommend everyone read Joseph's book. Thank you, that's very kind. Thank you as well for everyone else. That's perfect. So we're at the 29-minute mark, which is usually the time I sign off. Sebastian's kind of wanting to go home now. He's kind of leading the way. And the thing is, sometimes walking, it's a little bit tricky, walking, talking. I know that people have also said about the camera movements, and sadly, I mean, I will try to do things, but my days are really action-packed, full of work, and I'm very passionate about my work. I have my clients, and I have a lot of things I'm doing every day, and ultimately, this is free, and I do like to do lots of free things, But with that in mind, it has to happen on my own time when I can do it, when I'm, because obviously I work with paid clients and so on, and their attention has to do that, so I thought it was a perfect time to actually do this when I'm walking Sebastian. So sorry if it is. Someone did actually say that maybe not to look at me, which is just put it on the table or something and then just listen. That's a great one. Okay, oh, thank you everyone. Has anyone here used a nighttime hypnosis, and did it help? It did for me, and that's why exactly I created it, and I do promise you, pretty much everyone has loved it. The people who didn't quite love it, I'm always honest with you, is because it kept them up a little bit, but what I found is the answer to that person, every time I've said that to a person, is just turning it down more. It will actually allow it to sink in still, okay? So sometimes people listen to it a bit too loud and it kind of wakes them up a little bit. You don't have to have it loud. Just enough to hear it and you'll still stay deeply asleep. And let's just see. And Elizabeth said, yes, it works wonderfully. You have to use it for a few weeks, but now I don't need it. That is perfect. That's what I'm here for, to get you to the point where you don't need the specific things. Obviously, this kind of stuff we all need because it keeps ourselves accountable and it keeps us growing and learning. You've got to invest in yourself, but once you've got your outcome, you move on to the next one. So with that, it's getting dark now, and I think it's time for me to say goodbye. So I really hope you enjoyed that. If you are, go ahead and share and let me know in the comments. Ideally share, that means more people get it, and that means more people will get on here. I'm looking forward to the day when we get like 1,000 people live on here. How awesome would that be? When we get to that level, I would definitely probably not be walking around everywhere. But in the meantime, I think there's a great process. So have a great time, everybody, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Many thanks and goodbye.